Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the recap show of Week 9 and 8 of the 5 Mu Alpha LCS. My name's Fleeing Panda, and with me today I got Sivan, Gerg7, and Jirachi.
What's up?
Hello. Hello. Final one of the season. Well, the regular season. Are we doing ones for playoffs?
Probably.
Okay.
Wait,
Final one of the regular season. There we go.
Yeah, we'll be doing these as we go through the playoff rounds. I would expect us to go through like each week or each round, if you will. Anyways, without further ado, we have our first match up on the docket, and that was the boosted Gorilla Monkeys 2-0ing Pooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have no idea who's filled you in, but how this recap is gonna work. We're gonna, since memories are kind of a little fuzzy from Week 8, because that was forever ago, we're going to be running through all the results of the past 2 weeks, talking about whatever we want to, not necessarily going too much in depth into each match, also to save some time. Then we will be talking about standings again, talking about whatever we kind of want to there. Same thing with OP5, and then once we get to All-Stars and MVP predictions, as well as playoff predictions, we'll go a little more in depth, and the bulk of the time will be spent there.
Alrighty, ready. So, as I said, the first matchup was that BGM versus Pooh, which was a 2-0 win for the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys, which really set Boosted Gorilla Monkeys up for their eventual number 1 finish. War versus G5 ended in a 1-1 draw. This helped G5 tie Rip and ended up securing that 6th place spot for them. Bat versus Rip really was a surprise match, if you ask me. That was a 2-0 for Bat. Slapnut Magoos and the Spanish Torpedoes played at a complete and total meme fest, and that ended square with a draw. And then HVG, yeah, I know. HVG split the points with Gimme Dat Ace. So going into Week 9, we had a ton of scenarios that really made Week 9 very fascinating. We had really crazy potential tie scenarios, and we ended up seeing a few of those. So the first one up, the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys taking down Gerg5 with a 2-0. I don't know about you guys, but that one was a pretty dominant performance by Boosted Gorilla Monkeys, which helped Boosted Gorilla Monkeys get a 6-point lead over HVG and everybody else, so they got the first place for the regular season. Gimme That Ace and Rip split the points, and this was an elimination game for Gimme That Ace. Gimme That Ace needing to win this game if they had any shot at qualifying for playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost a game to Rip, and that secured playoffs for Rip. Slapnut Magoo and Big Anime Titties split the points as well, and this did not help Big Anime Titties as they were trying to get a playoff spot for themselves. If they had won, they were in. Unfortunately, splitting the points there also left them in a tie with Gerg5, who had lost earlier. And they had also lost to Gerg5 earlier in the season, meaning Gerg5 had the tiebreaker over Big Anime Titties. War finished out the season with a strong 2-0 finish over the Spanish Torpedoes. Not a whole lot to see there. Julio feeding some more. And then we had the one thing I think a lot of people didn't want to have for all the tiebreak scenarios was Pooh tying Hidden Valley Gaming. I think game 1 of that went about 60 minutes long, with Pooh winning that, and then Hidden Valley Gaming coming back.
I remember like the day of just everyone on Discord talking about it, and people were like, well, you never know if they're going to tie, but you got this feeling in chat that like everybody knew. Everyone's like, it's definitely going to be a tie. We're definitely going to go into chaos.
Yeah. And that chaos left HVG, War, and Pooh all on 16 points. And correct me if I'm mistaken, but HVG ended up getting the 2nd place out of the 3 because they had a better head-to-head record with those 2 teams, having beaten Pooh earlier on in the season.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
Which means...
Or beaten War, I think it was. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, it was War. My bad. They'd beaten War earlier on in the season, and Pooh and War would then have to play a 1-game playoff, I do believe, to decide third.
They did a best of 1 tournament or 1v1 tournament. pretty
1v1
fun.
tournaments, yes, that's the way it should be.
That's gonna be
Anyways,
tools, by the way.
War won that tournament, so War ended up with third place. Meaning, this brings us over to our standings here. We had the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys, first place overall, 22 points. They're top of the league. Meanwhile, we had the clusterfuck that was HVG, War, We Are a Rhino, and Bear Jr. Poops in the Woods, all tied at 16 points. And as we just outlined, it ended up being HVG, War, Pooh. And then in fifth place, all alone, is Riches Provoked, picking up that 1 point off of Gimme That Ace to secure their spot after Gerg 5 had lost. And then Gerg 5, even though they lost and kind of stumbled at the end, still got in as Big Anime Titties were unable to finish out versus Slapnut Magoo. Close behind was Gimme That Ace, who certainly made things interesting at the end, going 1-1 with both HVG and RIP. And then separating themselves from the bottom of the pile was Slapnut Magoo, pulling up a draw, giving them 4 points overall. And then the Spanish Torpedoes with 3 draws throughout the season. So yeah, that is your final standings. I don't know, guys. What do you think of those? Think that's a fair reflection of the league?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I mean, you got BGM was that 6 points above the three-way tie for second. I mean, it's pretty indicative of just how dominant they were. They lost 2-0 to War, and then I don't think they dropped a game after that. Like, they just stormed through the regular season. And also, like, kind of how the standings are split into tiers. You get BGM at the top, another 3 of HVG, War, Pooh, and then another 4 of RIP, G5, BAT, GDA, all vying for those last 2 playoff spots that could have ended in a 4-way tiebreaker. Thank God it didn't. And then, so you got BGM at the top, kind of high tier, these mid tier teams, and then SNM, TST, who were kind of struggling to find games. SNM finding a few more, but yeah, it's just how the clear divide in the number of points was very indicative of kind of the tiers of teams this season.
As far as like, does it match what I think it would for the season? I don't know. I honestly did not know if our team was going to get first. I think in my predictions, I had War finishing first. But I mean, obviously, but they're up there. But I think for the most part, it's pretty close to what you'd expect.
I think the biggest thing for me was the surprise of Pooh not smashing through the rest of their matches, and ended up dropping a few games here and there. I at the beginning of the season, I really thought that they were going to be at the top. They're probably, I felt they're a pretty safe lock for position 1 or position 2, and they just kept losing these games here and there. Like they lost a game over to, what was that, Slapnut Magoo's. I thought that was a surprise.
They dropped
the Big Anime Titties. They just dropped a game here and there, and those were just surprising games to me to see them lose.
Yeah, and they stormed out of the gate with a 2-0 over RIP. Rest in pieces, my dreams. But yeah, they stormed out of the gate, and they looked like, yeah, they were working well together initially, and then the other teams caught up and they fell a bit. And I mean, still, 4th is not a bad finish, and we'll see just how far they can go in playoffs, see if they can get things back together and win out over these other teams. And also, I would also like to say, after the draft, kind of how I thought things would actually go. I thought first would be I thought the 2 teams vying for first would be Hidden Valley Gaming, which they got second, and actually Big Anime Titties, who got 7th. And I think they were kind of, maybe disappointment is a strong word, but kind of the a missed opportunity of the season almost. You look at their roster on paper, like General Dill, Beast in the Jungle, Bad Instincts, having this carry top laner pool, and he was also adding tanks, Opie and Gert, the one bot lane that stuck together, who looked very strong last season, and then Jingo and Chain just holding things down mid lane. You looked at that team and you thought, yeah, this is just a solid team who can probably get together instantly and vie for a top, but that's just not what happened. They had some They had some teamwork issues. Opie and Gert looked good, but not quite.
They look
as,
good in spurts, I would
They
say.
look good in spurts, but also the quality of the bot lanes around them just improved so much. Like Fudgy Ditters coming into the league, kind of really one of the breakouts. Like I thought he would be like good, a good AD carry, but he ended up being just doing awesome this season. So yeah.
And I think that was an actual, like, a very big theme for this season overall, was just all the rookies coming in and all of them doing so well, and just kind of changing the landscape of the league. And, as we go forward into next season, I expect more people to be joining in again. That little bit of upheaval each time, it's great. I love it.
Story of the season. Whatever you expected to happen probably didn't happen.
Yeah, probably not happening.
BAT not making playoffs.
The tiers are made up and the games don't matter.
Who just so high?
Hello.
Jimmy actually not being horrendously bad. What?
No.
What?
Oh, that was
What?
This Is Lugo.
Sorry, I removed Lugo.
Lugo is dropping by. Hello, Lugo.
Well, I booted him.
Oh, nice. Okay. Damn. Okay, well, let's
Not playing the split, don't get a commentate.
Let's move on to some OP5s.
All right, without further ado, we got our OP5s. We did 2 separate groups instead of trying to smash them all together. So for our first group, this is the week 8 OP5. In the top lane is Bad Instincts, followed by the jungler General Dill. In the mid lane, and for the rest of the team, we have the boosted Gorilla Monkeys, who, yeah, they were just on a roll. So that's Gerg7, Piper is, Alistair Moody, and then your MVP for week 8, Gerg7.
Yeah, we've talked BGM to death over the course of these recaps, so I did looked dominant. I will put a word in for Piper, who this was the week he had the 17 kill misfortune game and was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
For
for the 2 BAT members, Bad Instincts and General Dill, like Dylan playing 2 games of Shyvana and just taking over games, like I can say negative things about like how I played, I guess, but like we just couldn't quite find an answer to that Shyvana, and he was just taking towers, split pushing, and it was just brutal to handle. And then Bad Instincts game 1 on the Maokai was just team fighting super well, and at least personally for me, it was just so hard to deal with. And sometimes just that Maokai presence won fights, and then game 2 he got a Lowy and just popped off.
Yeah.
And then what's up?
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, I was just saying. Yeah, it pretty much like sums up that series for me. So that's why it was basically just Dylan the game 1, and then game 2 for me it was definitely Sebastian, who just destroyed everything on the map.
Yeah. For me, what really impressed me about the boosted Gorilla Monkeys was, again, this was a 2-0 win over Pooh, and they just looked so dominant, especially in the mid lane and the bot lane, which I thought was a bit interesting because, that bot lane for Pooh is pretty solid, and it almost looked like boosted Gorilla Monkeys had their number of that game. So, anyways, moving on, we're going to go to week 9 OP5. And
Hold up. Wait, what just happened?
Do.
There we go.
All right. So for this one, again, it looks like it's boosted.
It's
Gorilla
just
Monkeys
Gorilla
just
Monkey
dominating. Yeah, minus Greg because Greg's boosted.
I'm gonna need someone else to comment on the Bukaki Poro pick for mid lane, because on my team, B, I didn't pick him. I love you, but I didn't pick him.
I picked him because I looked into the stat book and I looked over the game VODs, and from what I saw, it just seemed like he was the most consistent player on RIP, in my opinion.
Excuse me?
No, I'm serious. Like, he just
Did you look at my stats?
Yeah. I'm talking about Bukaki Poro right now.
I know. You're fine.
So he was, according to from how he's played throughout the split, it was one of his best series, according to just like straight up stat book numbers. And then from how he played, he was never out of position. He was always doing his job. I thought he outperformed all the mid laners that week, even Greg and myself in that game, and that's why I don't know. That's why I put him in, but he had his best week in my opinion of the entire split. So
Honestly, I think whatever pisses Rich off. So I think Bukaki Poro
Wow, thanks.
100% should have been
I see
the
how it
mid
is.
laner.
If you want to piss me off, put my entire team on here except me.
ooh,
I mean, that sounds
Ooh.
accurate. Anyway,
Ooh. Anyways, right? Our
That's
MVP
fine.
for week 5 was Fish Baby Bot, who didn't get a shout out last week, but he gets one this week.
for
All right.
sure.
Yeah.
Moving on. We did a little bit of an All Stars prediction, MVP voting thing, whatever. Don't forget to turn in your ballots, right? Don't be like America and not vote.
hmm
Oh, we just got our 27th ballot, actually.
this is more important anyway. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyways,
27th ballot who did not vote for an MVP or a
Hmm.
jungler. Interesting.
So are we doing a compiled list, or are we just like
Uh,
each stating our list?
I'm posting all of our individual lists by role, and then we can talk however we want.
All right.
So,
Well, I'll
top
start then.
lane.
Put them down. I'll start. Anyways, I got Blackestran and a Count. Blackestran just being one of those carry top laners that really just reshapes games in War's favor. It's kind of hard for me to leave him off of the list. It was between, and then my second pick, it's between a Count and Frontlash. Frontlash struggling a little bit for me because his team was so much lower, and a Count, helping his second place team, get that first round bye. I just couldn't leave him off, so I had to go with Blackestran and a Count.
Yeah, and I mean, all of us agreed on Balakashres. You know what?
What?
I'll give in.
Wait,
By
gives it to
Blackestran,
what?
we mean Juice Me Daddy.
Juice me, daddy. Yeah, I'll know.
I was like, I don't know who Block Xtran is. I was pretty confused. I'm glad that got clarified.
God damn it. Anyway, yeah, he was one of probably the most consistent performer in top lane this split. But for my second pick, I have Frontlash actually, and I have him here. Because when he went off, it was very flashy and everyone noticed. Which, like, visibility, a big theme in my list is, like, visibility and popularity, sort of. I'll call it more visibility. But when he popped off, and he is the reason S&M got wins at all, I think. The rest of
Did
his
Rich
team...
just openly say
What?
they vote for popularity, people?
I didn't vote for popularity, people.
Rich is like, it's a popularity contest here, and that's who I'm voting for.
Shut up.
I mean, okay.
This is also not who I voted for like this entire.
So I think
yeah.
on that subject, I think Rich is actually semi-correct. It's definitely there's like the idea of like the names existing, but regardless, I still made my predictions based off of who like I think played better, and so Juice Me Daddy for sure was the best top laner, and then Akute or Akaut, I don't even know. I gave up on that a while ago.
Akiut, I think.
Akaut. So he definitely
Choose a better name and stuff.
I think he was a more consistent version of Frontlash. Essentially, he was a good carry for his team when Frank either fell behind or was going even. Usually, Frank had the edge on his opponent, but in situations that he didn't, I think Akeu was the rock in the top lane the whole season. It was super consistent, almost as consistent as Caleb, but Caleb was just like that much better. And I think Sean's here. He wants to talk about his.
Hey, what's up,
Hey,
guys?
Medbug has joined.
Hey.
Okay, cool.
Are you
Just in
driving
time.
right now?
What? Are you
So-
driving?
Yes, I'm pulling into my driveway right now.
Oh my-
Move!
Mute him.
I'm not server muting him there. He's muted for now. Someone tell me when he says he's back in a stable environment. Y'all can still hear him. It's fine. Yeah.
Anyways,
Just time.
I think
Junglers.
jungler time. We got General
This one
Dill. I
was
know
a
that one.
consensus. General Dill and
Yeah.
Fish Baby Bot across the board.
I mean, General Dill. really carrying his team at times. Getting those Baron steals. You just had to watch when you were trying to take a Baron versus General Dill that he's going to come in, he's going to try and steal it, and then more often than not, he'd actually steal it, which was super frustrating, and it definitely helped keep his teams in. At least that's why I just had to go General Dill. And then Fish Baby, in my opinion, made so many good things happen for the boosted Gorilla Monkeys that it was really hard to pick somebody else over Fish Baby, just considering the success of the team and then what he was doing for that team.
Yeah, I mean that's like the same. I think across the board, we all chose that for the exact reason. And then Fish Baby Bot, even though his Fish Baby Bot stats were not like crazy good, he had a really high KP in most weeks, which was like probably his star stat, if you will. And like if you look at the game bots, he was like the playmaker. He's the reason that BGM was able to be successful early game, and then the team as a whole in late game was able to finish the game out. But he was just a good playmaker, though his stats aren't like super glorious. He's not like the hard carry in terms of damage and stuff like that. He's definitely the playmaker for the team.
Yeah, I call him a facilitator.
Yeah,
177 assists. The 6.0 KDA, definitely really an indicator of what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Okay.
He's back. You can unmute him.
Okay.
No longer driving because that's illegal. I hope you know that.
Welcome back.
It's not illegal.
Can't be on your phone and drive.
In certain states, you can.
Wrecked.
Any state that's not Texas, because we all know Texas don't know what they're doing.
Okay, so
anyways, the mid laners. We have kind of some picks across all over the place. Gurk7 seems to be a consensus pick.
Yes.
I think we all know why. He ended with a KDA of, what is that, 12.6, which is
something. The only
12.6.
double-digit KDA in the split ever. Well,
Yeah,
for
which is
PMALCS. Just ridiculous.
just absolutely ridiculous. So
What was it, like 4 straight weeks where you had 1 death that week?
Yeah.
Try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What the? Oh my god.
5 weeks of 1 deaths,
Yeah.
2 weeks of 2 deaths, and 1 of 3.
That-
There was 1 week, week 3, where you died 10 times.
I don't want to talk about it.
I guess your scripts weren't working that week, so
Accusations. Anyway, the other.
Hello.
Oh my god, I did something weird.
It's
The other
Bear
picks,
Jr.
though,
How do I get tokens?
Can I server mute him?
No!
Nick, we are streaming the recap show at the moment.
Do I have permission to server
No.
mute him?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't have to. Good. But
anyways,
and I don't even.
it looks
want-
like I had the different pick than everybody else. Everybody else had Sivan, which I felt was a
Explain
very good,
yourself.
a good pick. But I felt that, again, looking at the success of a team was very important when picking an all-star, and Panic at the top hat
See,
with that
that's,
second place team just kind of pushed it over the edge. I know Sivan had some ridiculous stats, but
that's where I wanted. I heard you talking about like Akayut that way, and that's why I feel like, at least for me personally, like why I have front lash there, and I guess Jirachi as well, why they have it, is that I want to look at the individual player more, because this is more of an individual stat, and that's where I look at, even though Sivan's team didn't necessarily place as well, I still think he performed at one of the higher levels, because like when you, I mean, if you want to look at like even like certain games for HVG, like down the stretch where they were splitting more than they were 2-0ing, because they kind of started slipping just a bit, even though they did end up second because of all the work they had done previously. It's kind of just off the back of like both their top laner and mid laner not being as strong as the season went on, and being those rocks that you were talking about. So that's why I gave the nod to Sivan.
yeah, that's fair.
Cool. ADCs.
You know.
This is where people might scream bias, but like let's just look at them.
Yeah, about that.
about that.
I mean, Sivan voted for himself, so I mean, it's fine.
I
Yeah, that's true.
but also the 2 RIP people voted for
Yeah.
me.
Anyways, the consensus pick across the board is Piper is. You
Best
know,
ADC this split easily. There's
Yeah.
no argument against that.
even though I don't think Piper got a single MVP. I mean, just like Gerg7, Piper is had a couple games where he only died once. Like one game in particular had a KDA of 36
1 week.
1 week.
Yeah,
Yeah, 1 week. And
was
then
that week-
35.
Was that week 8 with the
Yeah, week-
misfortune?
The week
Was
8 and the
17-0
week 9.
and 2. It was,
Bro, Piper's boosted.
Well,
you know.
yeah.
I mean, that's why we gave him this place because we know he's boosted.
we
there
know
we
he's
go.
we know he's one of the best ADCs in the league despite being boosted.
Yeah. Just to remind us all that your memes can indeed be dreams. And then Fudgy Ditters for me, Fudgy Ditters doing a lot of work on that team for war. Certainly towards the top of his damage provided area. So
Menbung, I don't want to talk about me, so rationalize your pick of me.
Okay, so they're pretty good.
Okay.
Like, no, seriously. Like, okay, so this is where. Oh, a lot of clapping. Okay. So
Quality
like.
analysis.
This was really tough because I think Fudgy is like I think the big thing for me with Fudgy is that he's a whole lot better than I expected him to be. So like there's a factor in like being like my preseason notions of where he actually is now is so much greater than that of which I had for Rich, even though I drafted Rich in the top lane. But
yeah, about that.
Yeah, about that. Let's pretend that never happened.
What? Okay.
That I
So-
ever played top lane.
You didn't get it. You missed the joke. It's fine. So, Rich, they see us really well. I think have some of the top CS numbers in the entire league.
7.9, good for number 1 in the league.
Okay.
Wow. Look at this guy here. No bias.
I don't want to talk about myself.
I'm sorry. Go, Menbung, go.
Yeah. Mute this guy. I wish I could. No, but I just think, and this is where you might want to call me a little bit of a hypocrite from what I said earlier about like Frontlash and Cvan and why I have them. I think that because the way that Fudgy works in the system of war, as opposed to the way that Rich and they work in the system of Rip and what each of them mean to the team's success, is why I put them as an MVP, because the stats back up individual performance for them, but then what they mean for like when they pop off, how well their team does. And I think like when we see like the Juice Me Daddy here, and I mean like Violet Sociocat obviously is probably like the third or fourth one amongst all of us right here. And and also Zorpox is obviously playing really, really well right now at a high level. Nothing to take off of Summoner 2805. I just think that Rich's place on his team and when they pop off and how well they do is really indicative. And the consistency of the stats of CSD at 15, if we took that stat, would probably back up my point even greater. But
do I need to mention that you used the wrong pronoun and the right one in the same sentence?
Yeah, it was a bit interesting there.
Okay, let's keep going.
I see
It's
some
alright,
points.
Oh, go ahead, Panda. Sorry.
I see some points. But if I'm just looking at some like raw stats right here, Jirachi had a KDA of 3.9 compared to Piper is at 6.8, and then Fudgy Ditters at 6.5. So I think for me, that's why I had a different selection.
yeah, and I feel like that, like with that, because I did look at their KDA and was like, it's not as good as you'd like it. But I feel like that's more indicative of how the team plays. Because if you look at War, they're all together most of the time. So like their KDAs, I'm not going to say inflated because it's not like they're not what they are. But when you play this group as one and have more people than the opposing team, you're most likely going to come out with one or two more people living, as opposed to trying to make these like individual plays in the bot lane or being rotated on by an opposite team. Because if we want to be honest, we can look just in the standings. Rip's not as good of a team on paper or in standings as War. So
Yeah,
it's all right, Sean. I mean, we get it. You're just horribly biased. We understand, dude.
hey, I can remove Gerg7 because the only reason I put you up there is because you play Egg Champions. And
Egg
champion.
I like how he said champions. Name one champion that is other than Nivea that's an egg.
Executor.
You're an egg.
Diggs has
Actually,
that.
wait, no, Executor.
No, but Greg knows how I feel about these. Greg knows how I feel about his champion pool. He's like, God, just never dies.
Okay,
He
we're
plays
moving
Zach.
on.
He plays Zach.
Anyways, going on to the supports, it looks like we have a consensus pick. That is Bear Jr. Rookie of the year, I do believe. Bear Jr. Leading his team to a fourth place finish.
Hey, if you believe Bear Jr. is also the Rookie of the Year, or you believe someone else's, such as, let's see, Fudgy, Zorpox, Dr. Volamundo, Zurok, Labyrinth, Hiromar, Random Guy, or Your Moose, go vote in that end of season poll.
Yeah, there's a lot of rookies this year, and they were all pretty good. Anyways.
Bear's probably the oldest rookie ever.
What is this? That Dennis Quaid movie?
Yeah, exactly.
The more interesting one, though, I think, is what we did for second, and I mean, Menbung and I agreed again on the different picks.
I convinced you. I
put this down first. What are you talking about? I did this a week ago.
No. Oh, I guess it's different than our picks that we were talking about. Never mind.
Oh my god. Okay.
Anywho,
Well, I'm just.
I want to talk about Alistair Moody first,
You do
since
that
that's
first, yes.
that's like the consensus, or not the consensus,
What?
but like
Allergic to milk?
the majority.
Anyway, the majority was Alistair Moody.
Are you talking to me?
No, shut up.
Oh my god, somebody mute him.
And
Okay,
Alistair
so
Moody.
allergic
What?
to milk over Alistair Moody.
Can I mute him yet?
Can you hear us?
I
Yes.
don't know.
Hello?
Are you just memeing,
No.
Sean?
He's mean.
No,
I think
no.
he's just
No, I'm not. What the heck?
No, Sean.
Chris is talking,
Sean,
dude.
we're talking about Alistair Moody first. And
I can't hear Chris.
Incoming.
wait. Why can't he hear me?
Rip.
Anybody muted you?
Chris.
I don't blame him.
Oh, I remember the last time we were on here together, you had some vacuuming going on in the back, so I couldn't hear you. Sorry, dude.
Oh my god.
You actually
Wow.
muted him.
Truth comes out.
Okay. The truth,
Anyway,
the rumor comes out, does Bruno Mars is gay?
Wait.
jeez. Anywho, Alistair
Just
Moody.
Google it.
Alistair Moody is the majority vote, and I think the reason that at least I put him down was that I thought he and Fish Baby were the two playmakers for BGM. I think Alistair Moody was able to make plays in the bot lane to get Piper ahead, and then on top of that, in the games that I personally played against BGM, I think he was like one of the sole reasons they won. Like, not he wasn't the only reason, but he certainly was like a huge factor. His playmaking and his engages, his peeling, they were all just top notch. I was actually debating switching him and Bear for the first spot, because I think he was just that good.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
for you guys, you had a different person.
Yeah, I picked allergic to milk, and I will agree with literally everything you just said. And for what it's worth, I think Alistair Moody was actually a slightly better support than allergic to milk this split. Like you said, he had a lot of playmaking going on, really helping out Piper. And that bot lane was just ridiculous. But I think as much playmaking as he does, he can fly under the radar a little bit. He did for the first 6 weeks, more or less. Then I believe it was week 7 or 8, the one Alistar game, and everyone's just like, oh, whoa, he does things, even though he did that the entire season. It's kind of like not a ton of people that sing his praises, but those that sing his praises think he's amazing, and rightfully so. I'm one of them. But a lot of people think Sal are good. Like, I think. Again, this is going back to my thing about popularity, but I think Allergic to Milk did almost as well and is, I think, kind of more visible and popular that I think he gets the nod here.
Yeah.
See, I don't mean to nitpick, but I feel like you just went on and on and on and on and how good Alistair Moody was and his stats and leading in assists.
Exactly.
But then you say like, oh, but the namesake of Sal. I mean, to be honest with you, once Sal got his Bard banned, if you look at his stats the second half of the season, once Bard got banned every game, it dropped significantly. His assists per game went down, his kill participation went down. It all started to go down because he kind of showed that his carry potential was, Bard basically. But I mean, if you look at Alistar Moody, that man played like 5 champs over the season, and every single time he showed he was able to play them. I don't know. I feel like you're just giving him an all-star position on the sole idea that he's like a known player.
Honestly, you would be surprised how much being a known player gives you all-star positions. I'm really not trying to take anything away from Alistair Moody, and I think the all-pro results, once they get released are by like the smaller panel just on performance. Once those results get released, we'll see just that purely what people think of their performances. But yeah.
What I'll say is they're very close statistically. Alistair Moody having only 1 less death than Allergic to Milk. The KDA is 6.08 for Allergic to Milk, and then 6.1 for Alistair Moody. Kill participation, both are in the 70s. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, like somebody's typing really loud on the keyboard. But if you think about it, they're very close together. So it is like splitting hairs.
I mean, what were their total assists?
253 for Alistair Moody, and then 231 for Allergic to Milk.
Top 2 assists for the split.
Yeah, and then you look at where is it? Their vision scores, and then you have Allergic to Milk with a vision score of 1309, and Alistar Moody at 1016. So like just
per minute.
Vision score per minute?
Yes.
Or okay, that would be 2.13 technically when we're rounding for Allergic to Milk, and for Alistar Moody it'd be 1.77.
Wait, where are you getting that stat? Because I'm getting something completely different.
Okay, if you look on where it supports and then vision score, and then there's the number, and the one right next to it is vision score per minute.
I'm looking at the total stat sheet, and that's a different number.
What? Hold up.
Burn this LCS to the ground.
Oh my god, I hate both of you. Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, Alistar Moody. Yeah, no, Alistar Moody's right there. Boom. Pow.
Oh. All right.
Okay, so that vision is a huge thing for me when it comes to obviously like the support role. Like, of course, everyone needs the ward. Okay, guys.
When you say everybody needs to ward,
I mean everybody needs to ward.
There is one player that put 1,000 wards down in the whole season.
Well, spamming it in the base doesn't count, Panda. Okay, so. Jesus Christ, I wish everybody would just shut up about themselves subconsciously or whatever. Alright, maybe I don't have to because I actually sucked. I'm the only person on here without a mention. So
what if I were to pull out a stat that kind of invalidated your high wards per minute, Panda?
Which
like length of game time or something?
No, a vision score to ward ratio.
Where is that?
We'll save that for another show. I think we really are splitting hairs at this point.
But I think Allergic to Milk, his play is totally different when he's not on Bard, and I agree to Greg's point about that. But to the fact that he has when you're carry potential, he is right up there in damage percentage for the team with Bear Jr. and Rob. And Rob he's played more as mage type supports as well. But I just think that Allergic to Milk, when we were talking about how we believe someone said, I think it was Sivan, Alistar Moody and Fish Baby Bot are the playmakers for BGM, that I think that without Allergic to Milk to be the anchor in the bot lane, that HVG's success that we saw throughout the split is null and void. Because you can have a decent, a pretty good jungler and a good 2 solo laners, but if a side of your map it doesn't have a one strong point, then you're just gonna give that side of the map the entire time, and that makes it really hard to play the type of game that Frank likes to play.
If I may offer, we're really splitting hairs at this point, but you can decide for yourself who gets the All-Star within our All-Star poll. Anyway,
turn in your ballots.
Yeah, do the ballots. Let's move on.
All right, going on to our MVP. We got
4 Gurk 7s and a Bear Jr.
Hoy, Gerg Sevens and a Bear
Menbug, you
Jr.
have 2 minutes to rationalize this MVP pick.
Because I think that BGM's an overall better team, and we see that there are so many good players right there on each like on each role, except for we didn't do top lane right. That doesn't have one.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Big Dick Jimmy.
Stat
So-
wise, you could argue it.
But I just think Bear Jr., his roams, everything, what he meant for the team, they were vying for a top 2 seed for most of the split, and then ended up getting 4th.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that?
They were vying for a top 2 seed,
We're talking about poo.
And then ended up
4th due to tiebreakers.
all right.
I mean, they could have ended 3rd if the
But
1v1
like
would have been a little bit different.
I don't know. I feel like this kind of goes back to what Rich stated before. They just started the season off so strong, and then it seemed like people started to figure them out a little bit.
Well, they figured out the team. Bear Jr. still played pretty well. Now he did have probably like a week or two like stint of like not being as Bear Jr. as we're used to seeing.
I mean, there
but
were a couple
at
weeks where he had double-digit deaths.
I mean, when you're building AP Bard and you're trying to be a carry from the support role for your team to make things happen. I mean, the problem with, in my opinion, with Pooh is not necessarily individual players, whether you want to talk about like Labby not building a jungle item or stays out backs, but it's just like the macro that they have. You know, you have Hillary Clinton in the top lane the entire time, or a side lane the entire time. So the macro is a little bit different, and they play like this one style, and then Bear has to work with that. And I just think that, so many really good players on BGM, it's hard to say who is the true MVP of that one team when we have 4 of the 5 players right there, and there's only one member of Pooh. Now, I'm not saying, oh, well, why don't you just put Jirachi, because he's the only member of RIP. Well, they didn't. Yes, they didn't perform, but RIP didn't perform as well. Same thing with some of these other teams. So that's my only rationale for Bear Jr. It's not that Greg didn't play well, and I don't really care about his champion pool. I just meme on it. Those were strong picks. But
I have a counter to that. Bear
Real
Jr.
quick,
poops in the wood. What?
real quick,
go,
'cause-
just go.
Quick, go.
Just let him talk. Yeah.
So Bear Jr. Poops in the Woods, they actually have, I think, a higher average MMR as a team than the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys. You have a Plat mid laner in Hiromar. You have a Diamond support in Bear Jr. I mean, to say that the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys overall as a team averaged better, I would completely disagree. I feel like if you go across the board, Pooh is just as good, if not better. How
can you disagree when we have 4/5 of their team on this All-Star?
He's talking about like performance to split.
Yeah,
Were better.
the reason I'm disagreeing with you is because I think you could put that group without Gerg7 in the mid lane with a different mid laner, and I don't think you get the same results. And that's why I think the most valuable player is Gerg7. You take Gerg7 out of that equation, and are we going to see Fish Baby Bot, Alistair Moody, and Piper is at the top of the leaderboards? I honestly don't think so.
I'm not gonna lie, I still think Piper would be at the top.
Actually, I think if you put Hiromar where Greg is, and then you put Greg where Hiromar is, that you would probably still see Hiromar on that team, but you'd also see Greg on the other side. The biggest thing is that without Bear on that team, I do not think Pooh make playoffs. I do not think Pooh makes playoffs, because everyone has said on this desk at one point that random guy there's been some people on here who, whether on this desk verbally or behind closed doors, talk about that he's not one of the best or the top 80 carries in our league, and that Bear is really the one that anchors that bot lane and it makes Pooh work.
I think what it is for me is like, I don't care, I voted in this, so I'm just going to talk about it, is that I'm on the best team and I have the best stats. So those two factors alone would be MVP, in my opinion, regardless of the team. I mean, you have to look at your MVP as a player like, this was the person that, like they're obviously the one, like, I don't know. I can't even fucking describe it. But
I'll say this.
When you say categories alone, should be able to dictate it.
When you say like, it's like people with TSM, like they're gonna be like, oh, Haunter's the best top laner because he's on the best team. It's like, well, he's gonna have better stats because when you're winning most games, most of your players will have better stats.
Winning
That's my counter to that. Huh?
Nothing. I was
No,
gonna
what'd you say?
Meme you. I was gonna meme you.
No.
I mean, I think there is definitely an argument for Bear Jr. as MVP, and I think he's definitely top 3 or 4 in my opinion. But again, his team started off so strong; they came out right out of the gate, just like looking like the best team. And then, we 2-0'd them like pretty, and like both games were pre 30 minutes. So I think I don't know. I guess that's just kind of how I look at it in that way. But I mean. I think by far he's rookie of the split.
Oh, for sure. And I'm not saying again, and I know you're on this desk, but I'm not attacking you personally or anything. I think you're really good.
I feel like you hate me inside and you want me.
I mean,
to die.
that's perfectly fine though. No, but it's just a difference of opinion.
No, I get you. I voted in the poll as well. I'm not trying.
If I would have been really good this split, like if Cvan's team maybe would have placed like top 4, I would have made him in contention with Bear Jr. because the same argument could have been made for him, but they were, 6th place. So I digress. Let's move on. Rich, stop memeing on stream.
Personally, I feel like the real MVP should have been Big Dioc Jimmy, but that's a
Okay.
Actually, I think
No.
No,
We're gonna move on.
No.
We're gonna move on because I have to go soon. So I'm gonna make
have
my
6
predictions and then
minutes.
leave.
You have 6 minutes. Okay.
All right, Chris.
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
make my predictions and leave.
So the first quarterfinal between Wart and G5. Let's just talk about this a bit.
Well,
so how?
I'm just gonna do all of
give-
my predictions and then I'm gonna leave.
let's just do the predictions.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just throw them all up because why not? Okay,
Let's
there we
do
go.
it.
I'll run through mine and then I'm just dipping the fuck out.
Yeah, just put Cvan's all down, and then he's gonna talk about it and leave.
I put all of them all down.
Yeah, whatever.
That's fine.
Just go.
Okay. So I predicted in the first quarterfinal game that G5 would 2-1 war. I know this is not the consensus, but I have to cheer for my team. So
Yes, there you go. There you go.
Bias.
That's how it is. It's playoffs. Now you
And,
just do it all the time.
Yeah, now I'm gonna
That's
make
the
sure
way.
that we
Hell
shit on
yeah,
them
dude.
and we're gonna win.
Hell yeah!
And,
There we go.
Jesus Christ.
All right, next game. Poo 2-0's rip.
Oh God.
I think that's the case. Just I don't see a different scenario unless Pooh has looked a little weaker, but I do think that they are definitely going to take the 2-0. They've got a much stronger team as a collective unit. In the semifinals, this would make the semifinals BGM versus G5. I think BGM shits on us again.
Fans are butts
That's just kind of how it goes. And then Pooh. 2-1 to HVG because even though they were 1-1 last week, I think Pooh in more games played have like the 60% to 40% win, if you will, over HVG. And then third place match is us versus HVG. I think HVG. And then in the finals, I think BGM 2-0's Pooh because again they are just monsters. So. That is all.
Okay.
Rich.
All right, adios, friends.
Bye.
So so before we continue, just for some context on how we did these, so we each predicted the quarterfinal match, and then we just predicted the rest of playoffs, assuming our predictions were always true. So
Well, that's how predictions work, Rich.
no, but
Way to go.
shut up.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
I'll start with mine.
Oh, I was.
You're gonna
I
go.
I was going.
You can
Okay,
go.
so
You
I
can
have.
go. I don't freaking care.
I have War 2.
I gotta go in like 6 minutes though. Oh,
Okay,
3 minutes.
Panda up next. I have War 2 owing G5. I think War just looks way too strong. And yeah, I have us 2 wanting Poo. Because I think it'll be a close series, but I'm not going to go into much more detail than that because that's our series. Moving on to this first semifinal, BGM 2-0 us. Yeah, it's BGM. And then I think War 2-1's HVG, again, close series. But I think War just looks stronger and just they're solid across the board, and I think they just match up a little better. Third place match, I think we 2-1 HVG again, close series. But if regular season was any indication, we are a good matchup against HVG, I think. And then the finals actually have BGM taking a 2-1 over War. And War was the one team who 2-0'd BGM. Granted, BGM got a lot better after that, but I do think War... Oh wait, hold on. The finals are best of 5.
Yeah, I just realized that too.
Hold up. Okay.
To be determined. To be determined. We'll just keep it for now.
Okay, let's say it's best of 3. I think War takes a game off, but BGM wins it.
All right, so going through Panda's picks real quick because Panda's got to go play a tournament here soon. So does Gerg. War 2-1 over a G5. I think they're gonna split a game. They're gonna split games easy, and then it's just gonna come down to that third and final game. And I feel like G5 will end up tightening up, and G5 will end up losing. Pooh versus Rip, I think is gonna be. It was a stomp earlier. It could be a stomp again. It could also not be
one with me in top lane.
That's what I'm saying. Like it could be a stomp. It could be a completely different scoreline, but I'm gonna go with past history in making this prediction. BGM versus Pooh. I feel like Pooh will take a game off of BGM, but BGM will be able to close it out. And then War versus HVG. War should be able to close this out, but I won't be surprised if HVG takes a game off of War. HVG will 2-1 Pooh. I know. Interesting. And then BGM, I do feel like is going to end up being your champion, regardless of what goes on with War. If it's a 3-game series or a 5-game series, either way, I still feel like BGM over the whole series will end up taking it over War. Although I do expect it to be very competitive. So both teams I expect to win games there.
Okay, who's up next?
Greg.
So my picks are War 2-0 over G5. I think Rip's going to take a game off Pooh, but I still think Pooh is going to TO. And then BGM's going to play 2. I foresee 2-0 there, and then War against HVG at 2-0. And then Pooh, I think Pooh will go ahead and take it over HVG. And then I think BGM will take it over War in the finals, which that would be the absolute most hype match of all time. I'm just saying.
All right, and
I'm
so
just
for
gonna
me,
say I'm an offended Terp.
you are. So for me, I have War winning 2-1 over G5. I think G5 is going to take one game off where Cvan somehow goes off or something like that, most likely, or it stalls out really late and there's a late game fight. We're going to 2-0 Pooh because we're going to smash him. I'm calling it right now. Come at me, Bear. I'll shit in your woods. Then BGM will play us, and I think we will take one game off. But then the best team in the league is going to show why they're the best team in the league right now. War's going to 2-1 HVG. I think it's going to kind of be there was a whatever. They're going to be a one game split back and forth, obviously, and then I think I just trust War's overall collective, especially the bot lane difference. I think is a little bit big. Third place match, I have Rip 2-0ing HVG again. I think we just match up really well with them. And then I have War winning. If it's a best of 5, then it's going to be a 3-2 or a 3-1 for War. Because I think the longer that you give Allie tape inside of a series, the more likely that she's going to win. So, yeah, the 5th place captain is talking trash to the 4th place captain. You're not so high up there, Short Bus Warrior.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna plead the 5th here.
Tell Hillary Clinton she needs to call Russia because she needs to rig this game for you.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Wait, isn't that... Oh, wait, no, Hillary.
Yeah, because the DNC... Yeah, okay.
Go back. Okay, there we go.
Yikes! Alistair Moody just coming in here with the yikes.
Yikes, and I'm gonna agree with the yikes, Jesus Christ. Okay.
No, I love a good trash talk, that's all.
So, let's talk a bit about these quarterfinals matchups in depth now.
Well, I have to go.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Yep, same here. Bye.
I'll be there in 5 minutes.
What are you talking about?
Okay, I guess this is gonna be just me talking about my opinion on these for
Well, no. So like, I think the overall consensus minus Cvan, and I think Cvan and Cvan. It's funny because like Panda doesn't think that they'll win. I think Cvan believes in himself, obviously being the carry of that team. It's the same way I feel about our team. You know, in the next matchup. Crazy Ivern mechanics. You're right, Ali. Why would I ever deny the Ivern of the Bear Jr.?
Oh my god.
But I think overall, when you look at it, has shown throughout the season that they're a more complete team. You know, there's obvious reasons why each team is rated higher, but then when you look like lane to lane matchups, G5 top lane, got to give it to War. Jungle, probably a little bit more even, but I still think because of how Guy Fieri works within War that you give it to War. Mid lane is different because Cvan, if he doesn't have his champion pool, it's interesting to see like what would happen if they were to pentaban him or something like that. I'm saying that would happen because they'll probably pick it up in the first rotation. So depending on what champion he gets, how does War react to that and, you know, try to counter that. And I think Allie's got some good ways of doing that. She usually always goes even or wins lane in the CS margin, if not by kills and roaming. And Cvan's not really a roamer. And then the bot lane, as I was talking about before, I know it's Panda and Bison, but Fudgy and Zorpox is a pretty stout lane.
Yeah. And I think, like, yes, all of us except Evan have War beating G5, whether it's 2-0 or 2-1, but if G5 does win this series, it's going to be off 2 great games from Cvan. Violet Sociocat, fantastic shot caller, fantastic team fighter. Not always a super dominant laner against the other plat mid laners, and Cvan really likes to play for lane and team fights.
Yeah, I guess
stop
it
lane
depends.
and snowball, and I think
I guess it depends on what you consider like a winning matchup. Like, do you mean like solo killing them? Yeah, like that's different. Like, she can win in the CS margin or by roaming.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the matchup of like of a Jensen versus Bjergsen. Not saying that she's our Bjergsen or anything, or like Jensen versus Hai. If this was to be like old C9, like Hai could solo kill people in the mid lane, and she does. Yeah, okay, then that's fine. That's fine. You know, Bison, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that most likely over the attrition of 3 games, which I have you going, I feel like I'd give the edge to War's bot lane. But Allie knows like the limits of her champion pools and everything like that. Also, she plays like really. I'm not gonna say easy to execute champions, but champions that she's really familiar on, just like how Cvan does. And I think the way that she plays around the map is going to lead to War taking the series as we move on.
Yeah, either way, that is going to be I think it's going to be a close series, even though I have a 2-0. And it's going to come down to mid lane. But let's move on. Is Panda still here? I hope he is, because oh wait, he's not.
No.
So we've got 2 RIP people talking about this.
It's okay. Well, so like the reason why you would take Pooh...
Let's try. Yeah, let's not talk about our team. Let's talk about how we.
No,
think
I'm
Pooh
gonna
wins
be
this game.
unbiased. Okay. No, I'm gonna be unbiased.
Okay.
Like the main reason why most people besides us have Pooh winning is because one, they're obviously ranked better in the standings than us, and they've shown more dominance. Also, Bear Jr. roaming him around the map, most likely, and Random Guy has been able to survive bot lane without him. And then also, who's going to answer Hillary Clinton's split push in the top lane? And Labby's jungling has been decent so far, and also Hiramar is just, if you want to look lane by lane like we did previously, you kind of have to, I think you'd say push, but maybe give a slight edge to Hillary Clinton in the top lane. And then sorry, I'm trying to log in to my account.
If I may submit about Labby, I think I'm not trying to offend you, but I think that's even, not because Labby is necessarily like a better jungler than you or anything. I think because he's very unpredictable. He can have games where he just absolutely goes off. He had 2 games like that against us in week 1. He can have other games where he continues to not build a jungle item, goes fully Lee Sin, and does 5k damage in a 30-minute game. He goes from one end of the spectrum to another, and in more recent weeks, he's been he's been containing it. He's played like Maokai, he's played the tank champions. He's been not exploding, but he's doing what his team needs him to do. But I think Labby is the X factor for Pooh in this
Yeah,
series.
well, then you look in the mid lane, and objectively, Hirmar is a better mid laner than Bukake Poro. And then you look down the bot lane, you might want to give the nod to Jirachi against random guy you know, but then you have to give the nod, obviously, to Bear Jr. Against Summoner 2805. So there are some different like lanes that win. Like if you have a push and then an objective better, but then an objective better in the carry, but more so the carry is Bear in that bot lane. It's kind of a back and forth. I just think, and like I'll say that I think that while Labby is unpredictable, if he continues his style of not backing in time for item purchases, that he will get punished by the rest of RIP, most likely.
Yeah, and I think either way, this is a super close series. It could go 2-0 in either direction, it could go 2-1 in either direction.
Oh, it's going to go 2-0. We're going to smash Bear Jr. I don't care. I mean, I'm just trying to make it sound close.
I could go 2-0 in either direction. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But here, yeah.
No.
So, tune in to quarterfinals. We are scheduling those tentatively. War vs. G5 will be on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure what time it is. But Pooh vs. Rip is looking like it will be Friday next week, not tomorrow. Friday next week at 10 p.m. EST. So mark your calendars. Get hyped for playoffs, guys. And that'll be it for this final recap show of the regular season. You can now stop listening to two RIP people talking about RIP. And I'm still Jirachi, and we will see you guys in playoffs.
That is such a weird thing to say.